Hello and welcome back to WPT UK. We are stood outside Dusk Till Dawn Casino right here in Nottingham, and joining me today is the owner of Dusk Till Dawn Casino and partner of Party Poker Live, Rob Young. Thanks for joining me today, and I believe you're going to give me a tour around your grand establishment.
Yeah, sure, shouldn't take too long.
All right, let's go. So, did you expect it to go this far? What was your vision when you first opened this place?
Well, I mean, the primary reason why we opened the place was myself and Nick, who's the managing director here. We were late for a poker game for 10 minutes, and we said, let's open our own poker club where people can register late. We kind of knew a little bit about poker, we enjoyed it, so we felt that we could do something that was for the players. Sam Trumper, who helped design the place, he was very specific that he wanted to be in like an arena format.
Yeah.
The idea is you start with 300-400 players, and as people bust out, people are going to the next tier, and you end up on the final table. And you can definitely see when you walk through the front there that this is 50 poker tables, and you've come here to play poker. So here we are at the final table. I think we've given over 100 million worth of prize pools in this area. We're the first Ladies Millions winner.
When did the partnership with Party Poker Live come about?
Well, it came about from the WPT. So we had the first WPT here, and at the time Party Poker owned WPT, and that introduced Dusk Till Dawn to Party Poker, and that's where things were born. So this is the bar where people have plenty of fun, and we named it after my good friend. You can see the Devilfish Bar there, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, but last year he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So in his honour, we decided to name his favourite place in Dusk Till Dawn when he was here, the bar after him. So this is Trickett's room, named after Sam Trickett, who finished second in the one drop for 18 millions. He started off at Dusk Till Dawn, so we named the VIP room after him. This is where we play our higher stakes cash games. We have one table here, you can see. This is where some of the most famous players in the world have come to play. We tend to watch the sports, bet on the sports. It's a nice place to play cash games.
So this year WPT UK has seen record-breaking numbers. What does the future hold with WPT and Party Poker Live?
I think Party Poker Live and Party Poker are going to continue sponsoring and supporting WPT. It's record numbers in Barcelona, record numbers here. It's a nice buy-in to qualify players for. So I think we're going to keep pressing and pushing and really getting behind WPT, so they're the most successful tour at this buy-in in Europe.
All right, amazing. Can't wait to see what's going to happen next, and we can't wait to see who's going to be crowned the next WPT UK champion. And I believe you're going to be handing over the trophy on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever presented a trophy before, so probably going to do it this time.
Don't drop it.
So it's a big one.
All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, and for more information on the WPT and Party Poker Live, as always, just head to WPT.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the World Poker Tour United Kingdom final table here at Dusk Till Dawn. I'm Tony Dunst, online with Jonathan Little to bring you the commentary of our currently 9-handed final table. How you doing today, John?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here with you, and this is a stacked final table, and I am excited to watch the poker action.
It is a stacked final table. Some very accomplished players around here. You can see our chip leader Simon Brandstrom coming off a big win at EPT Barcelona just about a month ago, but James Rand has had some big results as well recently.
It doesn't seem right that people not from Britain can come in and play this event and make the final table. You'd think the British would team up on them and get them.
Well, there's still 6 of them, so maybe they will. Probably the wrong time in poker history to make jokes about collusion and cheating, though.
Yeah, my bad.
Simon, raising it up to 120,000 with 6s, has run into Maria's jacks. Maria has had some amazing success here in the last couple of years, including one of her first major wins was at Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, she's been winning seemingly everything recently, and good for her. I know she studies a ton, puts a lot of effort into getting better at poker, and she is consistently crushing it. This is an interesting spot because it's kind of difficult to know what Maria's calling range is pre-flop, because it could be rather wide with a lot of suited connected type hands, or it could be just mostly unpaired big cards at this point.
Yeah, Simon.
Or a lot of medium pairs though, and like, what does pocket sevens do in this scenario? It's a tough spot for pocket sevens or even pocket nines, right?
Agreed, and Simon has one of those hands that benefits from protection and driving out some of those overcards, but also doesn't have great playability should he bet and Maria calls.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of the best players in the world now just open folding small pairs from the early positions, and it's because this happens a lot, right? Like you raise, somebody calls, and then it's bad unless you make a set. Jacks, right?
I am very surprised to see Maria check back on that turn. It feels like a board that is both very good for her, but one where she would want to get some money in.
And she has to worry about getting outdrawn some portion of the time.
Correct. It is a hand that also wants protection when it bets the turn. And Simon here, I believe, is turning his hand into a bluff. Would you agree with that, John? That he's trying to bluff out maybe an 8 or pocket 9, something like that?
I would have much preferred more like a pot size bet or even bigger, perhaps, if you're going to try to get a 10 to fold or pocket 9s to fold. With this bet size, I think you're just going to get called a lot because it's so easy for Simon to just have queen jack or ace queen or ace jack or something like that. There's so many potential bluffing hands that he could have, and the king, while it does hit his range, there's so many unpaired hands still, especially hands that bet the flop small because he's probably going to do that with his whole range and then check the turn with a lot of it. Probably more like half the time or even more.
And Maria does make this call. So Simon's
definitely like the call.
No good. Maria's jacks will take down a nice pot here and push her near 3 million.
It's another good spot to call the jack 9 suited.
I agree.
I was flipping against Matt at absolute best. And then since then, our best hand.
So 3 ways to this flop, everyone holding hearts. Ryan with just 1, Simon and Maria suited in hearts. Start with a check from Ryan. Simon, not much happening here beyond his gut shot. We know he's only got 2 outs. He'll check. Maria with second pair, not a lot of reason to bet. She will check. 10 on the turn. He'll pair up Simon, give Ryan an open ender, and not change much about Maria's hand.
It's an interesting spot for a bet because she has the best hand a lot of the time, and I suppose some worse hands can call, so as long as their opponents aren't doing a whole lot of trapping, probably not so bad as long as you're not betting too big.
Oh, look at this. He is gonna check raise. Interesting.
Wow.
625,000. I guess Ryan thinks, look, I've got 2 of the queens. You don't have a straight. You don't have a set. If you got a 2 pair, I doubt it, and it's probably Jack 10 or King 10, and I'm gonna make your life hard. And Maria does fold her second pair of jacks. It's always a little funny when you watch somebody turn their hand into a bluff, but in reality, they're value raising. Ryan Mandara, now third in chips. Action with Paul here, just 8 blinds. Does he want to move in with his ace deuce? Yeah, he's going to put half his stack in the middle, more than that. So it is essentially an all-in.
It's a pretty loose open as well with the ace 2.
Well, he's got 8 blinds. It's
Yeah.
close. I'm not exactly sure what our shoving range is on 8 blinds from that position, but I would think the ace deuce is getting in there, but I could be wrong. And Paul with an ace queen needs to go with this. This should be a pretty clear all-in.
Should go.
Paul perhaps may think that Paul, who has opened, is all in here when he makes this call, or that I'll just call and whatever the money will go in on the flop, but I don't really know why we would want to call as opposed to just putting the rest in. And
every once in a while, the board comes really, really ugly, and the ace-2 somehow doesn't go all in.
Right. And now, drawing dead on the river, he is going to be our 9th place finisher. So our final table does finally have one elimination. And our table is 8-handed. So there you see, 36,000 for 9th. Next out, 46. But really, everyone eyeing that top prize of 330,000, including a season-ending Tournament of Champions seat. WPT Tournament of Champions open only. Now Paul on the button with ace-9. Going up to 200. And Matthew in the small blind should be all in here with ace-10. And considering these positions and the size of Paul's open, I would expect a call here, wouldn't you, John? He wants to count first. It's about 11 blinds that he's moved in here for. Paul does make the call, and Matthew, pleased to see that he is pipping Paul here.
Ace-9.
It's ace-10 in the lead. In good position to double up. Of course, this pot will be chopped somewhat often. I don't fold in Paul's shoes either, but I'm also not thrilled at having to make the call. So we go to our flop, and it is 8-5-3. Deuce on the turn creates chop outs to a 4. Otherwise, Paul needs a 9. 10 on the river, so ace-10 will double up for Matthew. He'll be about even in chips with Paul now, around 1.9 million.
Ryan has a reasonable seat to capitalize on being in position against James. If James opens up a little bit too wide, Ryan should actually start being willing to take more risks against him, because if he does overtake the chip lead, then now he'll basically have James and Maria in a bad spot because they're both to his to his left. So I don't think Maria should be taking too many risks or close risks, but I do think Ryan should be.
Well, an interesting flop between Ryan and our chip leader, James. Top set for Ryan, but middle pair, backdoor flush draw, and an open-ender for James.
You say all those things James has, but in reality, when you look at the board, you're like, ugh. You know, because this just lines up so well with Ryan's range, to where if Ryan wants to go bet, 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 you just can't call unless you improve. And even if you do improve, sometimes you lose. Not too often, clearly, but... like right here, he really doesn't want a queen or a 10, right?
Absolutely not. We know that it would be a disaster for James, but he will definitely make the call of this 285.
The mistake a lot of players make is slow playing hands like top set. They get in their mind, all right, I'm going to slow play top set every single time. And that is definitely a mistake when the board is draw heavy and when the board should connect well enough with your opponent's range. And now the 9 comes. So James now has the best hand. But he still has to fade 20% of the deck going to the river. This is clearly a very, very bad card for Ryan. He just really didn't want to see an ace, 10, or 9. And there you go.
Ooh, baby. That's the card, isn't it?
That's it. He's going to win a bunch of money.
Yeah. I'm going to make a prediction here. I think James gets away. I think he is going to assess this and realize that all of the full houses are in Ryan's range and would play exactly this way. Every now and then he shows up with an ace-10, although typically I think just ace-10 bets the turn.
Yeah, this is a spot where you can value bet very confidently like James does, with the intention of folding if you get raised. A lot of people get in their minds that if they bet, they can't fold if they get raised because they have a straight. But a straight here is actually quite bad. And if you think about the hands that Ryan has to be turning into a bluff, it has to be like ace-king or king-queen. Or maybe like pocket eights, you know? Like hands that could conceivably call or just don't make sense to turn into a bluff. Do you think that maybe Ryan should go for a smaller raise, given I just lined up how he doesn't really have many potential bluffs, or many obvious bluffs in his range?
I think this time I like his sizing, since I don't think James calls with any 10, but he can actually have worse full houses, and you want to get as much money as possible against those. Like, it's not that unrealistic for James to have the Queen Jack, the Jack 9, the King Jack. I mean, King Jack, you know, not very likely when you've got 2 of the kings, but full houses are in his range as well, and if you don't think he's going to call at the 10 and the only hands he calls with are under boats, then you want to put in the big raise. And Leo opens for the minimum on 16 blinds with his ace-king.
We may see action on this one. We saw a pair of 7s fold earlier.
Now, hijack versus
but not anymore.
button. I can't imagine Ryan would... Okay, yep, that's a good play right there. I like this shove from Ryan. Both the blinds behind him are quite short. Leo will make this call, of course, but Ryan with the small edge holding the pair there. Let's go to a flop. It is Jack 10-3, 2 clubs and a spade, neither player holding a club, and so Leo.
40%'s a lot. A lot of people don't realize how good ace-king is when it has a gut shot.
Clubs, though. There's no club.
It is a 4, and we will lose Leo in 8th place. Going to take home $46,000 for his efforts here today.
This is another hand where you'd usually rather just rip it all in. And he does. So that's great.
Oh, look
Manning.
out. There he goes.
All in and a call. 3 to stable.
So Simon is all in, at risk of elimination. He's going to need an 8 or some spades.
Manning, a big favorite going to this flop. 7, 5, 3, 2 hearts, and a diamond. Although an 8 of hearts will help.
Wow.
5, no help. And so Manning, I believe, was shorter than Simon. They are going to count it down. Our computer is saying that Manning had 75,000 more. I'm sure that they will clear this up. He does make the call. Calculating the side and main pot. Interesting flop here. Top pair and a diamond flush draw for Simon. An open-ended straight draw for Paul, and not much happening for Manning's ace-queen. Check, check on the flop. 7 of the turn will pair up Paul to go with his open-ender. Now I would be betting.
Pretty great in terms of hands like you could bet that you're not really worried about getting outdrawn with. This is a hand that is probably fine to still just bet the flop, but I mean, I get the idea of checking. And you know, interestingly enough, Paul actually has one of the hands that would put money in. Does call a turn bet. Man is going to need an ace on the river. He does not get it.
Nope, it is top 2 pair for Simon instead. So we will lose Manning.
Manning got it all in with ace-queen twice. I do like how Simon's not just snap betting the river. Some people will instantly bet when they have a good hand on the river.
Yeah.
Because they know they're betting. But notice how he kind of thought it over, made it look a little suspicious.
Yeah, and on that note, I do think that Paul is, how to put it, he has some tells in his timing and speed of action, particularly pre-flop. We've seen him really kind of think it over when he's on the fringe, whereas, say, on the turn there, he, like, snap-called with his pair and open-ender when it was a no-doubter. So it's something you do have to be cautious about where, you know, I hate to suggest people slow down the game, but it can be good to just take a beat, as it were, before your action. So those times when you have something that is very clear and very obvious is not distinctive from the times where you really genuinely need to consider things.
Folds around to Matthew. Well, I think we all know what's about to happen right here.
Yeah, this is an 11 blind shove.
One thing Maria does that I think is good is making sure she understands the situation.
King 3-6 on the flop, and salvation for Matthew. Now way in front. Maria does have a backdoor diamond draw. It is an 8, and Matthew will stick around and knock Maria under 20 big blinds. And a spot for Paul here that he is going to shove. Well, we know he's going to get called. And, you know, look, I don't, how to put it. I don't think this is a bad shove, but I think it might be optimistic against an under-the-gun open 6-handed from someone.
It's tough because
you
Simon
know,
has been kind of active in terms of opens, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a tough one. I mean,
I
I don't
agree.
fault him for the all-in.
I don't mind it at all. I think it might be a little much. I'm not really sure, though. But a queen on the flop.
These 3 outers are coming a lot here on the World Poker Tour today.
They are.
Now he improved to 7 outs.
And a deuce on the river will hold up Paul's top pair of queens. He gets a double up here against Simon.
Promoting poker, making great poker events. Huge thanks to them for everything that they are doing to continuously improve the poker world.
Simon was also at that final table, but for now, Paul has raised 3x with the king 10 of spades. First to act, and Matthew right behind him shoves pocket queens. Look at this, the other pocket queens belong to Maria. So I imagine we are about to see another all-in, and in all likelihood, a chop pot.
Yeah, I think jacks might actually be a fold. Ace queen, I think, is definitely a fold.
Yep, ace queen's definitely a fold. Paul gets out of the way.
Jacks, you pop it in there?
I don't know. Ugh.
It's nasty, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
ace king, you're not folding, clearly.
Queens against queens.
Oh, 3-spade flop, Paul. The king 10 of spades did fold 2 of Maria's outs, but Matthew not loving that. 7 on the turn. Would be a very dirty way to go out when the guy next to you says, I folded 2 spades. Whew. It was black, but it is a club. 10 of clubs brings us a chop pot.
It was the club the crowd was rooting for. They got 1. That's all they needed. It's always unfortunate you have to raise and then fold this type of hand, but that's fine. Recognize you don't actually have all that many low ace X suiteds in your range compared to the rest of it, so these are okay bluffing hands.
I would take a flop in his shoes, John. How about you?
But I would have called as well. They both get a gut shot.
Yeah, both get a gut shot. 200,000 from Maria to Matthew. You will make this call.
Notice how they're both in here fighting for this pot that is a decent chunk of their stack. They're not just all in or fold, right? They are actually seeing the flop, going from there. They're probably both just going to check it, and they're probably just both going to check the river. We're not going to see a whole lot else happen, and that's okay, right?
And Matthew, in that event, would end up winning 100%. Maria, you know, her hand did not improve on this turn, but this isn't crazy to double barrel here if you think that Matt could have one of these weak pairs and the jack is much better for your range than his. He should not really have any jacks here beyond a king-jack kind of stuff. Maybe a jack-4 suited or whatnot.
He could have maybe backdoor flush draws.
Yeah.
But there's not a ton of those. I think Maria probably just has some better hands to bluff.
Yeah,
with.
you're right about that. And now
Wow.
Matthew turning his hand into a bluff.
That's a weird bet size. Again, like, is ace high ever folding? Like a good ace high that Maria has? A lot of, ace queen, ace 10 type hands? Queen high's not going to call. It's close.
She will let it go, so Ryan's ace-5 wins a very significant pot for his short stack.
Look at the chip stacks. I said Ryan's going to get up to about 100 big blinds. He's at 84 right now with no real contest. He has started with 33% of the chips. When we started at 6-handed, he has 48% with almost no risk involved whatsoever. And that is what you want to do is the big stack. We want to talk about, oh, here we go, never mind. Queen 8 offsuit. Notice he didn't raise 9-8, but he's raising Queen 8, and I think those are rather comparable. So,
look at this. Paul with pocket jacks, Matthew with ace king. And somebody's going to get stacked here. These two players almost dead even in chips. Maria is loving this. She's like, yeah,
Yes! Free payout jump. She's sitting here thinking, what place are we in? She's sitting here thinking free 20K.
All right, so Paul.
Paul's attitude's fantastic. It doesn't matter. Let's just see. Ace on the flop. Matthew jumps well out in front.
Paul drawing the 2 outs.
Deuce came. Paul's going to need a jack on the river.
5 of diamonds.
He does not get it. Looks like Paul's going to be down to
I think it's just about 5 of diamonds.
third of a big blind. 2/3 of a big blind. Wow, so earlier Manning got it only with ace-queen for his less than 1 big blind. Paul gets ace-queen for less than his 1 big blind.
And runs into jacks. We will
See
reverse
if
the coin
ace-queen can win this time.
Yeah. And
Round to
Ryan
Ryan,
might
wow.
peel this, yeah. Yes, he will. Try and win a pot of 220K.
In the same situation the other day. That's got to be me.
Ooh, danger.
He is drawing very thin with the pair of deuces out there. Both players with 2 pair.
This is a very small flop bet.
Very.
125 into roughly what? 800, 900K? 800K? Something like that?
Yeah.
Turn is great for Paul. As you see, his outs go almost all the way across the screen, but he
Deuce no
cannot
out.
get it.
So game over for Paul.
Let's see if Ryan can manage to not lose more.
I think he might block this. There we go. Just under 300,000. Quick call from Matthew. He is going to win with his pocket jacks.
Or a queen.
And ace queen for Paul has been eliminated.
Very, very nice run for Paul. He came in second in the Devilfish Cup for 200,000. Today he gets 76,000 for a 6th place finish. Not a bad week. Dust still going. So now that Maria is starting to get relatively shallow, it is time. She needs to find a hand to get in. She just collected her payout jump. I would not be too nitty if I was her. And as you see, she's going with the ace and 2 offsuit, which is great. Exactly what I would do in her shoes, and she runs right into James with the pocket 8s. So in this scenario, do you call or do you jam?
I jam.
Yeah, I think jam is the play. If you call, every once in a while, Ryan will shove on you, or Matthew will shove on you, then it's terrible.
Ace.
I could be wrong, but I think there was an ace 10 fold.
I believe so. 30% though, 30%'s a lot. King, queen, 7 isn't even great. Ooh. There goes one of the outs.
6 on the river, and we lose Maria in 5th place. Another strong finish for her at Dusk Till Dawn.
Thank you.
And she had some chips for a minute at the beginning of our stream, but unfortunately just hit a bad spell of cards.
That's baby.
And I'm very sure we will see her again in the near future. Here you can see the payouts here at WPT UK. We're down to only 4 players.
Ryan
Ryan
Mandara.
Mandara is the chip leader with 60 big blinds. He has been crushing it. I wonder if as time moves forward and the online sites all move towards displaying your chip stack in number of big blinds instead of actual chip number, right? I wonder if the online players are going to be even at a bigger disadvantage because they're not just going to be used to making the routine calculation for players who have been around for a while of just figuring out how many big blinds they have. Sounds crazy, I know, but I'm betting in like 5 or 10 years, it might be a difficult thing for online players. Coming to live poker.
Now with his Queen of Diamonds and 3 straight, Matthew bets and gets a very favorable 9 of Diamonds turn card. He is now open-ended with 2 overcards to Ryan's pair.
This is a spot where Matthew is likely going to continue bluffing because he has plenty of equity and no showdown value, but it's always so rough when you bet the turn and then get raised. which may happen against the big stack every once in a while. Clearly not with the 5-2, but say he does have something like 6-4 with a diamond, he may decide to just raise you every once in a while.
With a real one in the small blind, start by completing. And I like that very much. Yeah, he's completing, you know, strong and medium strength hands in the small blind and getting to the flop with Matthew, who
really, though,
outflops him.
ace-queen suited is great.
It is.
I mean, at some point your hand becomes so good at the point you should probably just raise it, and I think ace-queen is there. This is pretty bad flop for him, in general.
I think the solvers would do a decent amount of limping there. Ooh, and Ryan with an ace on the turn. Improves. Matthew checks back. River is a 6. And so time for Ryan to get some value from Matthew.
How much do we bet? I guess I would just bet a lot.
Wow, he checked.
Wow, check.
Huh.
I mean, checking is nice, but I think I'd check my bad aces.
Yeah, I don't get that one. I don't really think this is a run out where I expect Matthew to bluff that much. I think he has a lot of sort of weak pairs that are just going to take the showdown. Fortunately for Ryan, Matthew has a strong enough hand to value bet.
Is he going to put in the raise?
Regret that raise fold.
I would be.
I feel like that'd be a little bit optimistic too, right?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I get the idea of checking the ace if you want to raise it, but you don't really want to raise it. I think Ryan was kind of hoping he was beat.
He was seemingly concerned that he was beat.
There is a WPT Deep Stacks Europe Player of the Year race going on right now. First place gets a $15,000 World Poker Tour passport that you can use to play any World Poker Tour event. You can see full details on their site, plus complimentary accommodations, transportation, food and beverage credits, Player of the Year trophy, a watch worth $15,000, all sorts of fun stuff. Second place gets a $7,500 WPT passport, and third gets a $2,500 passport. So if you are playing the WPT Deep Stack Series in Europe, you are live for a very, very nice added prize package from the World Poker Tour. So check it out.
Ryan here. Outflop by James in the big blind. 2 pair. Ryan checks back on this flop. Queen of clubs on the turn.
But this happened to be one of the safest cards for him. He doesn't know it, but it was.
I think you would want to bet here. It's pretty tough for your opponent to have the queen jack. We expect him to bet a king 10 or any ace that would now have. Yeah, if I'm James, I just think I have the best hand close to always, if not always.
Should you bet bigger, though?
Yes, I want to bet a size that allows me to jam the river a little more naturally.
Yeah, I think I would have done the same.
And if I'm James, I think I still just jam here for, 1.2x pot. Every other size feels a little weird, but then maybe the jam, it's tricky. Yeah, I think I just go for it.
The turn bet size kind of put him in a weird spot, right? Whenever your turn bet size leaves you with a odd stack to pot ratio on the river, it means you probably didn't use the best bet size.
You'll drop it. Ryan now with ace-king suited. And continuing the trend of limping from the small blind.
The problem with limping as the big stack is that the short stack, or the medium stack, just should not raise you all that often.
Right. That was part of my concern here. I think this works as a strategy better earlier in the tournament.
Or when you're the medium stack and the big stack's on your left and they should raise you a lot. So I would think this is one of the spots you don't want to limp. Like, if anything, you should be raising a lot as the big stack, so you definitely want to raise your good hands, right? That way you just don't have all garbage in your raising range. I mean, clearly he's probably just using mostly a limp everything strategy, which does demand you protect your limping range by limping some of your best hands. But this just seems unnecessary. Now we're playing this tiny pot where he has a really, really good hand, and you want to play big pots with your big hands, not tiny pots with your big hands. So now for value, I don't think you can go too big on this river. Wow, he goes huge.
Yeah, I agree about the sizing here, John.
I would be surprised if this one gets called. And look, I'm a big fan of overbets. I don't want to sound like I don't like overbets. I love overbets because overbets really don't need to get called nearly as often as a small bet to just be way more profitable. Like, for example, if you bet half pot, a half pot bet needs to get called twice as often as an overbet, which it's kind of tough to do. But in this scenario, given the range that Matthew likely has, a king, a 10, or worse, those hands just can't call very much. And as we see, the 8 right there folds, right? Yeah, I basically never make small re-raise here. We do have the all-in. Matthew fist pump calls.
Queen 10-4 on the flop, so top set for Simon. Matthew with 4 outs to a jack.
Jack. All of them.
Turn is a deuce, so still 4 outs remain for Simon. Excuse me, for Matthew. Otherwise, Simon will double up. Five, and so Simon and his top set of queens score the double.
So, I mean, I'm raising the ace-jack almost every time in the small blind unless I'm just really sure the big blind's overly aggressive.
And James has not been, so yeah, I think I would be shoving in Simon's shoes.
So, I mean, I would have just shoved for sure.
James takes the flop.
Super nut hands are better to limp in this scenario.
Interesting flop here. Gut shot, flush draw for James, top pair for Simon.
Wow. It's a weird spot to check because you have to think James would jam all aces, right?
Right.
And as you see, James doesn't even bet, right? Because he probably recognizes I would jam all aces.
Now, Simon cutting out a bet.
Good spot to bet big. The board's very draw heavy. I would have bet more like 450 or 600K here, I think. So right here, if you can bet, let's say 600K and still have him call with a flush draw, that's fine. Still call with middle pair, that's fine. Still call with an ace if he has it, that's fine, right? You're just extracting more value. I think I would have bet very big there.
Ooh,
wow, Gen card.
Straight completed for James on the river.
That's the one James really wanted too, because all the obvious draws missed. You don't really put your opponent on the 4-3 gut shot when they call the turn bet.
About to lose some chips here. 900 is the bet. He bets just under full pot. And he's about to be delivered some very bad news.
What a fantastic river for James. He's been such a nice, kind, disciplined poker player all day and is rewarded with a deceiving gut shot.
There he goes. And Simon will have a decision here, but man, is it hard to find bluffs for James. There are certainly hands he could have that could bluff, but once you bet half his stack on the river, it is so rare that anyone attempts to bluff you out.
But little tip for everyone, when you bet big on the river and they still raise you, and you're getting amazing odds, you probably need to fold.
He does let it go.
Simon mastered that lesson and got off the hook from a pretty good hand.
He's going to go all in.
We're starting to get to the point where you have to be willing to go for it. And he does. Eights are really good.
Eights, king jack suited.
And queen, and so the face card, scary I'm sure, but ultimately harmless. Matthew just leaped out of his chair like he thought he might be out. Nope, you're good. You cover.
That's a bonus then.
400.
I was going to get
Ryan
a
out.
Really?
And Matt will put the rest in with 7-6 offsuit. Flop of...
Those back doors add up.
There's 10.
One of them.
Yep. Jack or a queen. Also good. An 8. It's going to be a safe one for Matthew. He's back to 1.2 million. James will complete. Jack 10 suited. Does Ryan want to get creative with his 9-6? while both his opponents are playing cautious with a short stack out there. No. He will check the 9-6, so 3 ways to this flop of 10-9 deuce. So top pair for James, middle pair for Ryan, 2 overcards and a gut shot for Simon.
Everyone has a little bit of something.
Simon, stab here for 400,000.
This is a tough one to bet because the 10 and the 9 line up pretty well with just random checking hands, right?
As well as James' completing range.
Dicey scenario. I'm not exactly sure you're supposed to be betting in this spot.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at Simon's bet. And he'll check on the ace of hearts turn. River is a 4 of clubs. Does Simon want to bluff? 900,000.
I don't know. I think I might prefer a different sizing here.
I think so as well. But it's going to work. James makes the fold, and Simon's river aggression pays off.
Doyle. 10 deuce.
There's a look at our chip counts. You can remember the Shark Tank
That's rough.
that PokerStars put on for a while was $1 million for first tournament. I don't know if second even got anything. And I think it was just winner take all. It was a free roll. And they said, if we find out that you have done any form of deal making, we will disqualify you.
To be fair, I actually don't mind that. And the reason I don't mind that is because it was a free roll.
Right. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And you should be able to do what you want to do with your money, in my mind. But if it's not your money, if it's a free roll, or if, you know, the tournaments want to start adding loads of money to the prize pool, then, you know, maybe you can say we can't make deals because it's not all our money anymore.
What was bottom pair on the flop and a club flush draw?
I definitely do appreciate the World Poker Tour and Matt Savage talking with the players and trying to figure out what we actually want, because that is what's going to continue to have us come back to play on the World Poker Tour, as opposed to other circuits that maybe don't let you make deals or won't facilitate or make it difficult for you to do what you would like with your own money.
1.2.
And that's 1.2 full pot.
Yeah, 10's an important one, though. When you have those magic blocker cards, every once in a while, might as well have a lot of fun here at Dusk Till Dawn and bluff all in at the final table of the World Poker Tour. He's doing a very interesting, like...
He calls. Look at this.
Oh, wow.
So Ryan going to win a big pot, bets full pot on the river, and gets paid by Simon with fourth pair, but a very key blocker.
Like life, right? Somebody can bust you in a tournament. You can actively be trying to take your opponent's money, yet still be friends with them, and that's A-okay.
Yeah, the game's not personal.
Well, the game is personal if you make it personal, but
Potential cooler
the
here.
best
I'm gonna
players
stop
often
you
do
there,
not make it
John.
personal.
Ryan raises up his jacks, and Simon with a hand that's likely to end up all in here.
Ryan's done a whole lot of limping from the small blind or jamming.
And a
Then he
snap
raises
call.
small.
Is going to outflop the jacks.
Clubs. Oh, we
Jack's looking for a club now, or a jack for a set.
straight.
11 outs. As you can see, still
Not that I'm rooting for
almost a
anyone.
coin flip. 8 of hearts on the turn. And an ace of spades on the river, so Simon will double up.
Really didn't like that place.
Taking his time on this one. He elects to limp.
And there it goes, 250. And a call from Ryan with top pair. And there is a turn that gives James an open ender.
Get your triple barrel shoes on. You know, a bit of a tell I think I see every once in a while, Tony, is when people make a bet and as they're making it, they're like kind of looking at their opponent.
No snap fold from top pair. Ryan makes this call. And James, should he not hit this river?
The 6 might as well be a blank, I think.
Yeah. Also
In
pretty
terms of bluffing.
tough to sell that you have a straight here. I mean, yeah, you could have the 8-9, but the ace-king, not as likely.
There he
Did
goes.
he win
The
for it?
triple barrel shoes are on. James finally did it.
Wow.
I
Well,
love it.
this is you got the image for it, that's for sure. What a spot for Ryan here with top pair and a spade blocker. I guess you block 2 pair, that's about it. And he gets the fold.
Nice hand.
Big bluff from
A
James.
plus. Ace 2 for this 18 big blind stack. You like the all-ins in these scenarios, Tony?
Yes, I do, as does James. And a snap call from Ryan with 7s. Man, he smashed those chips in the felt. Couldn't wait.
He's done math. He knows 7s are the nuts.
Now let's go to a
This is
flop.
like
It
4
is King Jack 5, 2 clubs. No help for James, who is 3 outing going to the turn. King on the river. And so Ryan and his pocket 7s will hold up and eliminate James in 3rd place. A very nice run at this final table. Comes to a close.
Amazing run. He has doubled his World Poker Tour cashes to date. Very, very nice run for James.
Hello and welcome back to WPT UK. We are here in Nottingham, currently outside the Dusk Till Dawn Casino, and in traditional classic British weather style, it is freezing cold and it is raining. So we're going to do a little tour around the HyperX esports truck, which is the first mobile esports truck, and it's the first of its kind here in Europe. And I've got Nikita here with me, who works for Allied Esports, and he's going to give me a tour around, and we're going to go explore and see how awesome this thing really is.
Here we are in the heart of the HyperX esports truck. This is where the action really happens. Over here on the side, we have the consoles with all the latest games. On the other side, we have the racing simulators where you can race against one another, try to get the very best time. And in the back here, we have our technicians who are working hard. I say working hard, but maybe it's hardly working. Anyway, this is the place you want to come to if you want to show your friends who the very best is.
So we're here outside Dusk Till Dawn. Gonna play a little esports, take my chance at a soccer game against Alex.
Oh, wait, but it's not soccer, Tony, it's football. But not football as you know it. It's football as us Brits know it.
Well, we'll see if I can handle myself at your Euro version of football.
How do I switch player? I don't know how to switch player.
I don't know how to stop.
My player's just moving by themselves. Yeah!
Oh, this is the wide open shot.
Why is my player so crap?
So I'm pretty sure she's playing a computer.
Did you not set this up?
We just set 2 computers to play each other and pretended that we were... Oh, God. I'm drunk.
This whole automatic thing is pretty cool, but I'm not really doing anything. It's far too easy for me. I was top 100 global leaderboards for Mario Kart, so I don't think you quite know who you're dealing with here.
Top 100 in your village or?
Global leaderboards.
100 kilometers. She's going to do a turn. Oh! She's in neutral. She's on second now.
I've never driven on this side of the car before with manual. No hands. Oh my God, guys, this is so much fun. It just takes your mind off of poker for a little bit, you know?
Reset, maybe?
Resetting. You're just rewiring your brain quickly.
If they turn up on the truck and stuff, can they race against you?
Yeah, they can try, because they're gonna lose. So we conclude our tour in the driver's cabin, which is also the commentating booth, am I right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. This is where we sit. We'll watch on the screens the action, the gameplay happening, commentate.
Awesome. Well, I feel like I proved myself in the driving simulation. I have the right hat on, so let's get out of here, Nikita. Buckle up, we're off to the next destination.
Hello, everyone. We are back for the Heads Up battle live from dusk till dawn poker and casino in Nottingham, UK. I'm Jonathan Little, joined by Tony Dunst. We are here to close out the evening with you. And Rob Young and Simon Trumper and the rest of the team here. They do a great job of producing amazing poker experiences for all of us. So huge thanks to all of them. We are heads up. Simon's playing about call it 25 big blind stack. So that is the effective stack size. And Ryan opens it up with a raise. And the same goes for Ryan. So I think we're going to have a battle.
Ryan with the ace-4 makes the bet of 650. Wow, what the... Oh, okay, sorry, our computer was a little behind there for a second. My apologies.
So check on the flop. Simon checks the turn with bottom pair. Over to Ryan with the ace high. He does not need to bet because he has a very clear marginal made hand. And now Simon gets to go for a sizable bet if he feels inclined.
1.5.
Definitely like the way Simon has played this final table. He's been willing to get in there, battle. Nice.
Wow. I thought he had announced 1.5 and had bet about full pot, but I guess I misheard.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe the graphics are still catching up.
And Simon will take that one down.
Simon raises it up and Ryan will call. You'll notice that we're going to see a whole lot of flops once we get heads up, most likely because there is that ante in play.
And plus,
you just cannot fold from the small blind.
I think heads up plays a little more passive than many people realize, particularly pre-flop.
Well, it's passive, but also people are in every pot, So a lot of people view activeness as aggressiveness. And those are different. Like, we are going to see almost every flop here. Because they're really just both fighting to try to realize their equity. That's it. That's all they're trying to do, to some extent, is see flops, don't get pushed off equity. So, we have Ryan check calling the bottom pair.
Bluff he will for 1.3. Ryan with a bottom pair and an open ender of his own will not be going anywhere.
Yeah, so heads up. A lot of people think you need to be raising and re-raising and jamming, but same logic that we've been discussing all day applies. The marginal hands generally want to just get as close to showdown as they can, like right here with bottom pair, right? Even though Ryan has a pair and a draw, his pair isn't great, his draw is fine, but you don't want to be ramming and jamming those hands. And in the ideal world, he gets to check here. So on the previous hand, he used an overbet for value. Let's see what he does in this scenario as a bluff.
Now he's blocking both of the straights that are possible out there. Jack 8, King Jack. 8-6, I guess, as well.
I think of the hands you could possibly have, this is just one you have to go for.
Simon is all in. Oh, excuse me, no, he bet 2.5 million. That's half his stack.
Wow. And Ryan's thinking, is this real?
And
He's
he
just
folds.
blasting me every time.
Ryan lets it go without too much contemplation.
So it seems like both players are using mostly a raising strategy. I wonder if Simon is a very well-versed heads-up player, given how he was like, I am not making a deal unless you pay me.
Yeah, it was a no-doubter for him. And he said it's nothing
Yeah,
personal.
Well, in theory.
In theory, it's always personal.
And that if it was a nice even deal, you'd make an even deal.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Which means you think you have an edge, which is not like, it's not offensive. You shouldn't be offended that he thinks he has an edge. He thinks he has an edge. So it is what it is. Are you willing to pay him the edge that he thinks he has?
Interesting
The
flop
answer was
here.
no, so here we are.
Top 2 pair for Simon, 2 overcards, a gut shot, and a backdoor flush draw for Ryan.
This is one of these spots where if Simon decides to get tricky and call, we could see a whole lot of action. But if he just raises immediately, Maybe he gets called if he raises, but then there's not going to be much more money put in the pot unless the turn is a spicy one. All right, wow, going for the slow play. I'm kind of surprised he goes for the slow play.
He kills this board a little too much for that. 4 clubs on the turn will bring Ryan's flush draw into play. We really couldn't tell if he was going to get called down or not, but here he bets 1.6 million.
This might be the triple barrel spot we've been waiting for, where
Yeah. You could. I don't think there is anything wrong with raising here. It's going to make this call. I would prefer to raise if jamming was the most natural size, and that feels a little big here. I feel like if we jam, we get called by, well, not just better stuff, of course, but a decent amount of better stuff. King of Hearts on the river.
King River. Pretty nice bluff card for Ryan.
He's all in.
There we go. We got a spicy turn card. I told you all. Give us a spicy turn. We have action. He's like, take my time cards, please.
This is the tournament. John Simon does cover Ryan, so if he makes the call, it will be over. And to be honest, I can't imagine that he would get here with 2 pair. And he makes the call. It's over. Simon is your champion. A tremendous final table. Ends with inducing his opponent to make a huge bluff on the river.
You got me covered. Oh, he's got me covered.
Hanging out over the last 9 hours and watch these guys playing some great poker.